Growing up, I was never the fastest kid, nor the strongest kid. My grades weren't particularly amazing. I sucked at most sports. I didn't fit in with the popular crowd, or even the geeky crowd for that matter. I guess you could say I was just another average kid. As an average kid with no outstanding physical abilities, you can imagine how much I disliked sports day. It was the one day out of the school year when I watched in disbelief as many of my classmates accomplished amazing feats of strength, speed, and agility with what appeared to be relative ease. It was also the one day out of the school year where I got to demonstrate just how feeble I was at every sport known to man. To say it was my least favorite day is an understatement. And even though there were many kids equally as unimpressive as I was at sports, I felt like I was the worst of the worst. I didn't understand the underlying intent of sports day back then. Heck, if you had even tried to explain it to me, my young brain couldn't have wrapped itself around how important this day was to my personal and professional development. It was a day of torment. I would later appreciate that sports day was meant to encourage competition, cooperation, innovation, and support. But at the time, I hated it with a passion. Let's stick with competition for a moment. Part of competition is self-exploration, to try new things, explore your limits, contemplate whether or not a particular pursuit is something enjoyable or beneficial to you, set milestones, and determine what you need to improve upon to achieve your goals faster, easier, or more completely. It's about the experience. It's about pushing yourself to try something new and different. It's about falling down and getting back up over and over again. It's about applying what you discover about yourself to other facets of your life. And it's about eventually discovering what you're good at and what you're not, and who you were meant to become in life. Cooperation and innovation are just extensions of that. Learning how to become something that's bigger than yourself, communicating, collaborating, meshing strengths, overcoming weaknesses, and accomplishing goals as a unit instead of an individual. And learning to support and encourage other people in their struggles and successes? Well, that's just good sportsmanship. As crushed as I was at losing at every competition, pushing my wispy body to its limits and feeling as though my throat and lungs were going to explode, unbeknownst to me, sports day changed my outlook on life. It made me dislike losing. It made me determined to better myself so I could show everyone that I was capable of more. It made me want more for myself. And that's how I became a famous athlete. Just kidding. I wasn't cut out for sports. But sports day sparked that desire in me to strive for more. It taught me to cooperate with others. It also taught me that just because I can't achieve something with muscle or agility didn't mean I should give up. It meant I needed to figure out other ways to reach my goals. I wouldn't hesitate to say that sports day was the single most important event in helping my creative and innovative sides to emerge. Just to be clear, I didn't necessarily come to these conclusions on my own. I was a kid and, as mentioned, didn't really comprehend the importance of life lessons at the time. I had help from the people around me, older people, people who knew about life and personal growth, people who had experienced disappointment and knew that it was an integral part of life, people who understood the importance of self-improvement, of setting milestones and goals and working hard to achieve those goals. Today's generation misses out on these lessons because there is no genuine competition in schools. Everyone can opt out of anything simply because they're just not feeling it. Kids come to expect that their parents will get bent out of shape on their behalf and fight to protect their offspring from feeling pain and disappointment. It's because of this that the idea of competition in our schools became something evil and why sports day vanished. I imagine at some point in the 90s, little Johnny or Susie came home from sports day saddened because they hadn't won a ribbon or medal. Their parents, upset at seeing their little baby so distraught, petitioned to the schools to make everyone feel special and equal. And why not? It seemed like a righteous movement. So the school system agreed and eventually turned sports day into participation day or activity day, where everyone gets a ribbon regardless of their efforts or accomplishments. In the beginning, this new approach seemed amazing because everyone came away feeling like a winner. But over time, kids started to realize that they didn't really have to exert themselves in order to get a ribbon. And why would they when everyone wins? Eventually, the purpose of winning a ribbon lost its meaning, its punch. It became just another thing kids brought home from school and tossed into a pile in their room. The sense of pride in winning something faded. In this scenario, no child who puts in the maximum effort ever comes home feeling like a winner when there is no clear winner. And no child who loses, regardless of the level of effort they put in, comes home with the feeling of disappointment and the need for self evaluation and self improvement. Rather than teaching little Johnny or Susie the value of losing, their parents fed into the hurt and found a way to circumvent it, but at an obvious detriment to their child's development into fully functioning, self sufficient adults. Doing away with sports day hasn't protected our children from disappointment, it deferred it. It has set them up for failure as adults. Here are some truths about today's young people. When a person lacks goals, they become easily lost because they have no path and no milestones from which to assess and grow. When there is no drive for self improvement, a person becomes idle and accepts mediocrity as their reality, or expects good things to happen to them with minimal effort. When their parents shield them from hurt, the child misses out on the passion of pursuit, the fear of failure, and the thrill of overcoming obstacles and the inevitable success. And when they finally make it out into the real world to find out this concept of everybody wins is a goddamn lie, they become disillusioned. The bulk of the younger generation have become fragile, easily depressed, hypersensitive to criticism, and predisposed to making mountains out of molehills. They've been led to believe that effort makes a person special and indispensable. They've developed a need for regular affirmation of just how amazing we think they are, which helps them sidestep the fact that, like many people, they suck at a lot of things. When they don't receive that affirmation, they withdraw and sink into despair, and they have a need for other people to associate and sympathize with their despair. They've been unable to discover the person they were meant to become because they've been protected from having to put any effort into anything. Their perception of what they think the world should be has also made them self-absorbed and entitled. In a nutshell, these people are not prepared for life, and it all comes back to someone at some point in time telling the school system that sports day is unfair to little Johnny or Susie. I'm not saying the loss of sports day is the only reason for these problems, but it certainly was a catalyst. It set a precedent for overly protective parents to fight for their children instead of allowing their children to fight for themselves. It stole the valuable learning lessons kids need to overcome obstacles. This overprotective parenting has led to generations of idle, incompetent, hapless, indecisive, fragile, antisocial, entitled people who glom onto procrastination as though it's some sort of badge of honor. I can only hope that some of these young people have the fortitude to pick themselves up, realize that they've been misled into this false sense of security, and recalibrate their way of thinking. Unfortunately, I suspect many will hold on to the belief that the world is wrong in how it treats them and allow their sense of entitlement to push them further into failure. And sadly, some of them will spin around in disbelief, wondering when they'll awaken from their matrix-like nightmare called reality. Bring back the competitive sports day and watch the next generation flourish.